Okay, this is part 3 of the interview from the Demzly Show. And so on to the next question. How do I feel coming back to the Demzly Show? What are the benefits of the show and anything to improve the whole show? Well, first and foremost, I feel so happy and honored that you have um, again invited me to your show, which is one of the most awesome martial arts show ever here in YouTube. If there ever was one, because as far as I know, this is the only martial arts show being played here in YouTube right now. And I think you should make this as a copyright or something. And I really feel honored. I really feel happy that you really decided to ask me these questions so that I could really clear up at least some of the things that that a lot of people wanted to ask me generally. And the benefits of the show is introducing, like what the internet did to martial arts, is the Demzly Show introduces martial artists out there who are practicing specific arts, or at least practicing and showing specific methods and principles on how to train. And because of that, it shows a whole lot of people of martial artists doing a whole lot of ranges of techniques, doing a whole lot of ranges of training that can really help a whole lot of people who are in dire need or of having questions answered in their minds. And so that really helped, especially for me, because without the Demzly Show, I wouldn't even be subscribing to some of the channels that you've introduced. So that's the benefit of the show. Improvements, the only improvement that I can see from the Demzly Show is for it to continue. That's all. That's the only improvement that I can see, because there's nothing that I would like to change, there's nothing that I would like to add. It's just purely perfect. So that's that. Years that I trained in martial arts as of late. And how did I get involved? Well, I've been training in martial arts for give or take 8 to 9 years now. And yes, that's still a short time. Considering that I started practicing martial arts formally when I was in 4th year high school. Yes, that was just recently. So I really wasn't practicing martial arts up until 4th year high school. It's interesting though and funny that I got involved in martial arts when I was in 3rd grade. And the reason being is that was the time when I first did my first roundhouse kick. And the only martial art technique that I practiced before was the roundhouse kick. Reason being is, for anyone who are anime fans out there, you could type Yu Yu Hakusho here in YouTube and type Sensui or something, and you would find a clip of him doing this ball of energy and then kicking it in a roundhouse kick fashion. And that's what I practiced before. I would pick up a stone, wear my shoe on my right leg, throw it up, toss it up in the air, and then tie my kick to that stone, kicking it as far away as possible. And that's how I trained my right roundhouse kick. And that's the only martial arts training that I did before, informally. Up until I trained formally during my 4th year high school. Now, during 4th year high, that was a totally different scenario because the environment that I was living in was very hostile. Really hostile. And you could really feel a whole lot of hate. And that being said, I didn't want to elaborate further. That really just pushed me to train in martial arts. And I didn't like martial arts before because it was, what I call it, popular. And I wasn't really into popular things back then. But when I started training in martial arts, that's the time that I knew that this is the thing that I would love to do for the rest of my life. So, my funny martial arts experience. Whoa. The funny martial arts experience that I would say is I have a sparring partner on my Okinawan Shorin Ryu Karate dojo before. He was he's a black belt and he's still a black belt up until now. He's still practicing karate. He, before anyone else that I met, was the toughest person ever. And I was inspired to train with him because he's so tough. I mean, you could look at his forearms, and his forearms are like tree barks. Well, I'm exaggerating, but... And so we were practicing some kind of block with karate. He was... So, it's kind of like a practice kumite. So he'd punch, then I'd block his punch to practice my outside block and my inside block. So, when we were practicing that, there was this time when he punched so hard and he was so into it because my blocks were so hard as well, because his forearms were so big and so strong, that when he did a punch at me at my chest, and it was really intentionally to hit my chest, I did an outside block with my left wrist, and it fractured. Yeah, it did fracture, and that's how tough he is. I think until now he's still that tough, and if anyone's going to spar with him, I feel sorry for his sparring partner. Seriously. So that's my funny experience with martial arts, and that might be the only one of the few injuries that I just had. And so there we go. Next question would be, do I believe in practicing both hard and soft in MMA as a whole? Would it be beneficial to train both? Absolutely. If a person trains on both soft and hard martial arts styles, what happens is the person knows a whole lot more about martial arts. Whenever, say, let's take a karateka for example, and they do a simple punch like this. So rigid, so tough, and so hard. If a person practices that art that way for the rest of his or her life, what happens is they tend to over contract, or say over tighten their muscles, and it really damages not only the muscles but also their joints. And if they're doing a wrong form, it makes it even worse. If a person just practices soft art, that person will not grasp totally on how to do hard strikes. So the person might be doing Tai Chi for a very long period of time, doing it really soft, not really practicing it really hard, not really hitting objects to toughen them up or condition themselves. And then when they practice it to defend their lives, their techniques will be flailing around and be so weak that they're going to think, what did I do wrong? And so if a person practices both hard and soft martial arts, what happens is the person learns the feeling on how to strike an object hard, as well as how to execute the technique in a soft way and ending up hitting the target in a hard way, then bringing it back softly, kind of like doing a boxer's jab. So that's one of the benefits on practicing both hard and soft at the same time. And that's what I learned also. So, Dems, if I say this, the whole world will know my secret now. Yeah, I love chocolate biscuits. I do love them. In fact, chocolate is one of the very many temptations that I want to have right now. Yeah, I'm a sweet craver. So, what weapons have I studied? Well, the weapons have I studied aside from Arnis is, unfortunately, just Arnis. And I haven't been in a formal practice with any weapons as of late, except for arnis and implementing knife techniques or ballpen techniques with using arnis. And so I'm a bit saddened that I have not learned any weapons training apart from sticks. But hey, there are still a whole lot of martial arts weapons out there that I could learn, and there's still a whole lot of schools that I could enter to. So yeah, there's a huge chance that I could learn something or some form of martial art weapon in the long run. And how beneficial are weapons training in MA? Uh, Weapons training is really beneficial because it really helps the martial artist protect him or herself using a weapon in say in an impromptu situation. Because having a weapon in your hand is like having an extension of your hand. Kind of like being Mr. Fantastic, where you just extend your arm, and that's what a weapon does. It really just keeps away or making your call that your fighting area as a martial artist bigger, so that you can keep away your opponents from your proximity. And that's what a weapon does. Not to really hurt the other person, not to really take the life of the other person, but to just keep away that other person from attacking you. So that's what a weapon does for me. Yes, I still do train katas. Yes, specifically, Naihanchin 1 kata. I really am not familiar, or should I say, I really can't remember the formal names of the katas that I was practicing. But I did the first Naihanchi and the second Naihanchi, which I already uploaded here in YouTube. You could find it in my channel. And I still practice those. And right now I'm practicing Bagua walks, the circle walking. And it really helped me a whole lot in just stabilizing my legs and just continue my training as a martial artist. So those are the katas that I've been practicing right now. Also with the Heaven 6 and all of the Arnis basics, like the single Sinawali and the double Sinawali. So there you go. And this is going to be the ending for part 3 for now, so we're going to move on to part 4.